Okay, your 5-minute break is done. So let's resume. Next is on page 97. The topic is toxicology and ballistics. So a method for detecting arsenious oxide, simple arsenic in corpse was devised in 1773 by the Swedish chemist Carl Wilhelm Scheele. His work was expanded in 1806 by German chemist Valentin Ross, who learned to detect the poison in the walls of a victim's stomach. So, who studied and detected poisons on the walls of the stomach of a deceased person or a corpse or a cadaver? It was Valentin Ross. So, apparatus for the arsenic test was devised by James Marsh. So, under toxicology, we know for a fact that toxicology is the study of poison. And in relation to this, the main uh, component being detected is your arsenious oxide. Yan. So, arsenious oxide ang dinedetect sa walls ng intestine, internal organ ng namatay to determine whether or not the case was caused or the death was caused by poison or not. Yan. So, we have three individuals who contributed to toxicology. Carl Wilhelm Schell detected the arsenious oxide, simple arsenic, in corpse. We have Valentin Ross. He detected poison in the walls of victims' stomach. And James Marsh, who invented the apparatus used for detecting arsenious oxide. Yan. James Marsh was the first to apply this new science to the art of forensics. He was called by the prosecution in a murder trial to give evidence as a chemist in 1843. So, chemist is the broader term. Toxicologist is a more specific term. Yan. So, when we say chemist, ang isang tao, he studies your, he studies all classes of chemicals. So, ano ba yung mga chemicals natin? Makikita lahat natin yan sa table of elements natin, di ba? You have your subject chemistry, yun. So, table of elements, makita niyo lahat doon. Yun lahat ang inaaral ng chemist. While toxicology is under chemistry. So, sakop ng chemistry ang toxicology. Pero yung toxicology, it is more specific on the poisonous chemicals. Yan. Specifically, the arsenic compound. We also have here Henry Goddard at Scotland Yard pioneered the use of bullet comparison in 1835. He noticed a flaw in the bullet that killed the victim and was able to trace this back to the mold that was used in the manufacturing process. So, Henry Goddard. So, this is in relation to ballistics. So, ballistics is the study of firearms, bullets, and shells. Or in other term, it refers to firearms identification. So, ano ba yung pinag-aaralan natin sa firearms identification? We are resolving whether or not a bullet or bullets, marami, or a shell, spent shell, or spent cartridges, cases, or spent cartridge cases were fired from a particular firearm. So, nag-responde kayo sa shooting incident sa crime scene, meron kayong na-recover na bullet. Ngayon, meron kayong suspect na baril. Imamatch nyo whether or not the bullet was really fired from that firearm or not. Ngayon, kung yan yung ginamit na baril, then we have to charge the owner of that firearm. Maliban na lang kung meron tayong mga fingerprint na nakuha sa firearm. Kung merong blood stain na nakuha sa firearm, tapos it undergone DNA, tapos it match the DNA of the suspect, then yan, forensic evidence na yan. Next is your anthropometry. So, frontispiece from Bertillon's identification anthropometric. Yan. So, when you say anthropometric again, it is the study of body measurement. So, demonstrating the measurement needed for his anthropometric identification system. The French police officer Alphonse Bertillon. So, Alphonse Bertillon is a French police officer who studied anthropometry. Was the first to apply the anthropological technique of anthropometry to law enforcement, thereby creating an identification system based on physical measurement. So, physical measurement, body measurement, bone measurement. Before that time, criminals could only be identified by name or photograph. So, ito yung mga history noon. Bago nagkaroon tayo ng anthropometry, the suspects can only be identified through their names or through their photograph. Yun lang noon. So, kung meron silang mga prior committed crimes, meron silang mugshot. So, kung meron silang mugshot, that's what we use to identify criminals. Yan nung araw. Ngayon, gumawa si Bertillon ng isa pang karagdagang means of identifying criminals. The body measurement, physical measurement, bone measurement. Yung bone naman, applicable naman siya pagka sa corpse, sa mga cadaver. Yan. So, Bertillon created many other forensic techniques including forensic document examination. So, meron rin contribution si Bertillon sa question document examination. The use of galvanoplastic compounds to preserve footprints. Yan. Alam niyo ba yung cluster of Paris? Sa NatSite ba pag-aaralan niyo to? Ito yung cluster of Paris, ito yung gagamitin nyo. Pagka kunwari meron kayong na-recover sa isang crime scene na depressed footprint or shoe print, ayan, bubuhusan nyo siya ng plaster of Paris. Tapos, pag tumigas na yung plaster of Paris, saka nyo kukunin. Saka nyo lilinisin yung mga dust. Tapos, yun na yung exact size na reproduction ng footprint or shoe print ng suspect. Yan. Alphonse Bertillon also had contributions on ballistics and the dynamometer used to determine the degree of force used in breaking and entering. So, what is dynamometer? It is used to measure the degree of force used to breaking and entering. Although his central methods were soon to be supplanted by fingerprinting, his other contributions like the mugshot and the systematization of crime scene photography remain in place to this day. Ayan. So, yung anthropometric system ni Alphonse Bertillon, nag-fail. Nag-fail siya in the case of the West brothers. Yung West brothers, they are twins. It was William West who created the crime or who did the crime. However, it was Will West. So, William and Will yun West, parehong apelyido nila. Magkambal. Parehong itim, pareho ng height, pareho ng kulay, pareho lahat. Except lang, fingerprint. So, doon ngayon natalo yung anthropometry. Kasi naging parang unreliable siya doon. Kasi, okay, nakuha mo yung body measurement, pero sino ba talaga sila sa kanila yung gumawa ng krimen? So, it can only be identified through the difference of their fingerprints. So, wala pang DNA nung araw, ah. So, yun. So, from anthropometric, it shifted now to fingerprint, stating that no person has exactly the same fingerprint. Each and every one of us has different fingerprints. So, magkakaiba ang fingerprint natin. Walang tao na pareho ang fingerprint. And meron din tayo yung mugshot. Hanggang ngayon, ginagamit pa rin natin yung mugshot. So, kung meron kayong, minsan meron kayong mga nabiktima kayo, may kinumpint nyo sa barangay, sa police station, di ba? Tapos, pwedeng ipakita sa inyo ng police pagka na-request nyo yung mga possible na suspect. Especially pagka sinabi nyo is, namukhaan ko yung tao pero hindi ko talaga alam yung pangalan. Pero pagka nakita ko yung mukha niya, pwede kong maituro. Diba yung mga ganon? So pagka ganon yung mga mostly na scenario, ipapakita sa inyo yung mga mugshot. So ito ba yung itsura niya? Tingnan nyo nga yung mugshot na yan kung naandyan yung mukha ng perpetrator. So ipapakita sa inyo. And nowadays, hindi lang siya mugshot. So meron ng improvement yung mugshot rin naman ngayon. Ngayon, ina-upload na rin ng mga police yung pictures ng arrested person into the PNP e-rogue system. So nakikita na ng mga lahat ng investigators nationwide lahat ng hitsura ng mga arrested persons and accused. Yan. So on your page 98, we have here the topic fingerprint. So fingerprint, palitan lang natin to. So you will be having a separate subject for fingerprint, forensic fingerprint or dactyloscopy. Yan. So dyan yung mapag-aaralan yung complete details niyan. So we have here Sir William Herschel was one of the first to advocate the use of fingerprinting in the identification of criminal suspects. While working for the Indian Civil Service, he began to use thumbprints on documents as a security measure to prevent the then rampant repudiation of signatures in 1858. So as early as 1858, marami nang namimeke ng pirma. So na-observe to ni Sir William Herschel, thereby he proposed the use of thumb marks instead of signatures. In 1877, at Hooghly near Kolkata, Herschel instituted the use of fingerprints on contracts and deeds. So instead of signatures, thumb marks na ang ginagawa nila. And he registered government pensioners' fingerprints to prevent the collection of money by relatives after pensioners' death. So meron din yung mga tao noon na nagpe-pension, di ba? Tapos nung namatay, nagsinungaling yung pamilya ng yumaon na buhay pa yung tao para continuous pa rin yung pension nila. Nakakatanggap rin ng pension. Kaya ito yung isang ni-resolve ni William Herschel. So kung wala nang updated fingerprint, wala nang fingerprint na naipapakita, yung pensioner, means to say, patay na siya, hindi na siya makaka-receive ng pension. So wala nang matatanggapin yung relatives. So in 1880, Dr. Henry Folds, a Scottish surgeon, in a Tokyo hospital, so where is Tokyo? It is in Japan, di ba? Published his first paper on subject in the scientific journal Nature, discussing the usefulness of fingerprint for identification and proposing a method to record them with printing ink. So, printing ink now were used to record fingerprints. It was the contribution of Dr. Henry Folds. The use of printing ink to imprint fingerprints, to develop fingerprints. He established the first classification and was also first to identify fingerprints left on a vial. So, yan. Siya rin yung unang nakadiscover na meron pala tayong pwedeng makuhang fingerprint sa vial. Sa lahat ng hinahawakan ng suspect, meron tayong pwedeng makuhang fingerprint. Returning to the UK in 1886, he offered the concept of Metropolitan Police in London, but it was dismissed at that time. Folds wrote to Charles Darwin with a description of his method, but too old and ill to work on it. So, matanda nga lang si Darwin kaya hindi na niya kayang trabahuin. Darwin gave the information to his cousin Francis Galton. So, Charles Darwin, who is again Charles Darwin, nakalimutan nyo, di ba? Meron siyang yung theory of evolution. He stated that before we were humans, we were apes. And before apes, we were something else. Diba? So, Charles Darwin has his cousin Francis Galton, who was interested in anthropometry. Having been thus inspired to study fingerprints for 10 years, Galton published a detailed statistical model of fingerprint analysis and identification and encouraged its use in forensic science in his book Fingerprints. Yan. He had calculated that the chance of false positive having two different individuals having the same fingerprints was about 1 in 64 billion. So there can only be two persons to have similar fingerprints out of 64 billion. Yan. So let's resume. So still under fingerprints, we also have here Juan Vositech. Still on page 98. He is an Argentinian chief of police. Created the first method of recording the fingerprints of individuals on file. So in 1892, after studying Galton's pattern types, Vositech set up the world's first fingerprint bureau. So it was Chief of Police Juan Vositech who first introduced the department expert on fingerprint. So it is now your fingerprint bureau. In that same year, Francisca Rojas of Nequechea was found in a house with neck injuries, while her two sons were found dead with their throats cut. Rojas accused a neighbor, but despite brutal interrogation, this neighbor would not confess to the crime. Inspector Alvarez, a colleague of Vositech, went to the scene and found a bloody thumb mark on a door. When it was compared with Rojas' print, it was found to be identical with her right thumb. She then confessed to the murder of her sons. Yan, di ba? Kita nyo? pinatay niya yung anak niya tapos nag-accuse pa ng iba. Buti na lang nakuhanan siya ng nakaiwan siya ng fingerprint niya, bloody fingerprint, which they used to compare against her fingerprint, which resulted positive. So, nag-match yung fingerprint niya sa latent bloody fingerprint recovered on the door. Saka siya nag-confess na napatay niya yung anak niya, mga anak niya. A fingerprint bureau was established in Calcutta, India in 1897 after the Council of Governor General approved the committee report that fingerprints should be used for the classification of criminal records. Working in the Calcutta Anthropometric Bureau before it became the Fingerprint Bureau. So if you can see the trend, before fingerprint, most of the bureau of the police that time, that era, was called Anthropometric Bureau. So when you say Anthropometric Bureau, it relies on the study of physical measurement, specifically body measurement, and sa mga cadaver, sa mga bones na lang ang natira, skeleton, bone measurement. So yun, anthropometric measurement, tapos nung na-introduce na yung fingerprint, naging Fingerprint Bureau na siya. So it became the Fingerprint Bureau where Azizul Haq and Hemchandra Bose yan. Hake and Bose were Indian fingerprint experts who have been credited with the primary development of a fingerprint classification system, eventually named after Supervisor Sir Edward Richard Henry. So, what is the name of these two Indian persons? We have Azizul Hake and Hemchandra Bose. They are Indian fingerprint experts who developed fingerprint classification system. So when we say fingerprint classification system, kina-classify nila yung fingerprint according to its class. So meron na tayong arch, loop, or whirl. Tapos meron pa siyang sub-classification. Tented arch, mga ganyan. Radial, ulnar, central packet loop. Yun. So, Henry classification system, co-devised by Hack and Bose, was accepted in England and Wales when the first United Kingdom Fingerprint Bureau was founded in Scotland Yard, the Metropolitan Police Headquarters, London, in 1901. And in 1901, Sir Edward Richard Henry subsequently achieved the improvements in dactyloscopy. So this is now the history of your fingerprint, how your fingerprint evolved. And in the United States, Dr. Henry P. DeForest used fingerprinting in the New York Civil Service in 1902. And by December 1905, New York City Police Department Deputy Commissioner Joseph A. Forat, an expert in the Bertillon system and a fingerprint advocate at police headquarters, introduced the fingerprinting of criminals to the United States. So nowadays, in relation to this, aside from mugshot of arrested persons, arrested accused, they also, or the police also records fingerprint. Yan. So we know for a fact that we have your what we call automated fingerprint identification system. So meron na tayo niyan, which is the capturing, which is the recording of all recorded fingerprints into a database system, which can later be used to identify a person, a particular suspect. Pwede rin yun. So, what is the basis of your office? Saan nanggagaling yung mga data na na-i-input o na-upload sa office? Ito, yung mga recorded fingerprints ng accused, recorded fingerprint ng arrested persons, and recorded fingerprints ng mga personnel na kumukuha ng kanilang mga NBI clearance at saka mga police clearance. So all of those are being uploaded into the office or the Automated Fingerprint Identification System, AFIS. Next is your Unlenhood test. Unlenhood test or the antibody precipitin test for species was invented by Paul Allen Hood in 1901 and could distinguish human blood from animal blood. So, ito, mapag-aaralan nyo rin to sa chemistry ninyo. So, pagka mayroon blood na nakita sa crime scene, i-detect natin whether or not it is a human blood or an animal blood. Kasi kung animal blood yan, pwedeng sinet up lang yan ng perpetrator as distractor para masira yung ebidensya. Based on the discovery that the blood of different species had one or more characteristics proteins. The test represented a major breakthrough and came to have tremendous importance in forensic science. It is Allen Hood, Paul Allen Hood. The test for the antigen and antibody precipitin test. So it is called the precipitin test. So what is the purpose of precipitin test? It determines whether or not a particular blood is a human blood or an animal blood. So yan precipitin test. Invented by Paul Allen Hood. What is the purpose of precipitin test? It detects antigen and antibody, which determines whether or not a particular blood is human blood or an animal blood. So hindi na siya hindi na to fingerprint It's all about DNA and blood na siya. Next is your DNA or deoxyribonucleic acid. Excuse me. Class, take note of the spelling. Deoxyribonucleic acid or your DNA. So forensic DNA analysis was first used in 1984. It was developed by Sir Alec Jeffreys, who realized the variation in the genetic code could be used to identify the individuals and to tell individuals apart from one another. So it can also be used as personal identification system alongside with your fingerprint and anthropometry. So the first application of DNA profiles was used by Jeffreys in a double murder mystery in a small England town called Narborough, Leicester, Leicestershire in 1985. So Narborough, Leicestershire in 1985. The case was a double murder mystery. A 15-year-old schoolgirl by the name of Linda Mann was raped and murdered in Carlton Hayes Psychiatric Hospital. The police did not find a suspect but were able to obtain a semen sample. So walang suspect na na-identify but they were able to obtain semen sample. So, possible na nakuha to sa internal reproductive organ ng babae. In 1986, Dawn Ashworth 15 years old, was also raped and strangled in a nearby village in Enderby. So forensic evidence showed that both killers had same blood type. Richard Buckland became the suspect because he worked at Carlton Hayes Psychiatric Hospital, had been spotted near Darwin Ashton murder scene, and knew unreleased details about the body. So he later confessed to Don's murder, but not Linda's murder. So Linda was the first victim and Don was the second victim. So he confessed pala, he confessed the killing of the killing of the victim Don, but he did not confess on Linda's. Now, Jeffries was brought into the case to analyze the semen samples. He concluded that there was no match between the samples and the Buckland. And Buckland, who became the first person to be exonerated using DNA. So, that is now the first use of your DNA, forensic DNA. So, forensic DNA kasi it was related to court na. So, forensic DNA. So, we have two 15-year-old rape, slay, victim. Kumbaga, ni-rape tapos saka pinatay. The first is Lindaman and the second is uh, Don Ashworth. So, Lindaman was raped in Carlton Hayes Psychiatric Hospital where your suspect Richard Buckland works, and also Richard Buckland raped Don Ashworth, 15, still 15 years old, in nearby village Enderby, where still again your suspect Richard Buckland was observed. So he was captured by the police and he confessed to the killing of victim, the second victim, named Don Ashworth. But he did not confess the killing of the first victim. So Jeffries confirmed that DNA profiles were identical for the two murder semen samples. To find the perpetrator, DNA samples from the entire male population, more than 4,000 aged from 17 to 34 of town, were collected. They all were compared to the semen samples from the crime. A friend of Colin Pitchfork was heard saying that he had given his sample to the police claiming to be Colin. Colin Pitchfork was arrested in 1987. It was found that his DNA profile matched the semen samples from the murder. So if you can observe, the suspect Baklan was acquitted of the crime of rape. Although he admitted to the killing of the second victim, DNA stated that no, his sample did not match the DNA sample taken from the semen. So na-acquit si Jeffries. And your true offender is Colin Pitchfork, who matched the DNA. Who matched DNAs with those taken from the DNA of the semen. So, saan ulit nakikita yung semen? So, in rape cases, syempre sa sexual organ ng biktima. Because of this case, DNA databases were developed. So, dito na nag-umpisa yung development ng DNA database. There is the National Federal Bureau of Investigation and International Database as well. So as the European countries or the NENFSI or European Network of Forensic Science Institutes, so it should be corrected, FN. So, FNFSI, European, ay, hindi pa, tama. ENFSI, European Network of Forensic Science Institutes. These searchable databases are used to match crime scene DNA profiles to those already in a database. So same with your fingerprint, the DNA taken from the crime scene now is compared with the DNA registered on the database of the European Network Forensic Science Institute. So, birth of criminalistics. So, take note, class, that forensic science, the other term for forensic science is criminalistics. So, what is again criminalistics? It is the use or application of your instrumentation. So, ano ba yung mga instrumentation? It is again your forensic science. So, it uses all the instruments, laboratory instruments. So, what unit now conducts criminalistics? What PNP unit? Of course, it is no other than the forensics group, yung crime lab natin. Sila ang gumagamit ng criminalistics o forensic sciences in solving cases. So, who is your father of criminalistics? The father of criminalistics is Hans Gross. He is an Austrian criminal jurist who wrote the handbook for coroners, police officials, military policemen in 1893, and is generally acknowledged as the birth of the field of criminalistics. So the work combined in one system fields of knowledge that had not been previously integrated, such as psychology and physical science, and which could be successfully used against crime. Gross adapted some fields to the needs of criminal investigation, such as crime scene photography. So, it also arose the use of crime scene photography as means of, ano ba yung purpose ulit ng crime scene photography natin? As means of crime of documentation, crime scene documentation, and at the same time, preservation of evidence. It is the best accompany to sketches. We have two types of sketches. Rough sketch. Rough sketch is a sketch created at the crime scene. And finished sketch is the enhanced sketch done at the, pwedeng at the office. Yan. So, mas okay na yung mga edges ng finished sketch compared to rough sketch. Kaya nga siya rough sketch kasi medyo rough, hindi pulido yung gawa. He went on to found the Institute of Criminalistics in 1912 as part of the University of Graz Law School. This institute was followed by many similar institutes all over the world. So it is Hans Gross, the father of criminalistics, who introduced the use of forensic sciences. And in 1909, following Hans Gross, we have Archibald Rees or Rudolf Archibald Rees. He founded the Institut de Police Scientifique of the University of Lausanne or UNIL, the first school of forensic science in the world. So it is the first forensic science university in the world. So Institut de Police Scientifique. Dr. Edmond Locard became known as the Sherlock Holmes of France. He formulated the basic principle of forensic science, which states that every contact leaves a trace. So this now was called Locard's exchange principle, and in other reference we call it Locard's principle of transfer. So whenever there is contact, it leaves a trace. So yung fingerprint nyo, pagka mayroong hinawakan kayong bagay, yung bagay na hinawakan nyo, magkakaroon ng latent print. So, i-develop yung latent print, mabubuo yung fingerprint nyo. So, in vehicular traffic accidents, pagka nakaparada, kunwari puting sasakyan, tapos hinit and run ng pulang sasakyan, nag-respond yung investigator, nakita ng investigator na, oh, merong red paint deposit sa bumper nitong sasakyan, puting sasakyan. So, means to say, ang suspect natin is pulang sasakyan. So, what would be the next step of the police investigators? So, pwedeng i-review niya nowadays kung may CCTV nakatutok sa crime scene, yung CCTV. Kung walang nakatutok sa crime scene, possible may CCTV pa rin na naka-monitor sa entrance at saka sa exit point nung daan kung saan nakaparada yung puting sasakyan. So, yan, isa yan. And pwede rin naman, kung may eyewitness, pwede rin, eyewitness. Nag-testify siya na, this was the vehicle who bumped this white parked vehicle. So, in rape cases, whenever there's contact, there's a trace. So, ano yung contact doon? Carnal knowledge, di ba? Carnal knowledge is a term for, tawag dito, rape. Tapos, so ano ngayon yung, so yun yung contact yung rape mismo. So ano ngayon yung trace? The trace would be the semen. So it can be determinable through DNA. We can identify now the perpetrator through his DNA if it matched the DNA of the semen. So in 1910, Locard founded what may have been the first criminal laboratory in the world. After persuading the police department of Lyon, France, to give him 2 attic rooms and 2 assistants. So, symbolic of the newfound prestige of forensics and the use of reasoning in detective work was popularity of the fictional character Sherlock Holmes. Yan. So, kasabay rin nito yung comic Sherlock Holmes written by Arthur Conan Doyle in the late 19th century. So, who is the Sherlock Holmes? He is a fictional character of an investigator who solves lots of mystery cases. So, he made great use of trace evidence. So, Dr. Edmond Locard made great use of trace evidence such as shoe and tire impressions, as well as fingerprints, ballistics, and handwriting analysis, now known as question document examination. Holmes used analytical chemistry for blood residue analysis, as well as toxicology examination and determination for poisons. So he used ballistics by measuring bullet calibers and matching them with a suspected murder weapon. So that was what Sherlock Holmes created, or the fictional character Sherlock Holmes done in forensic investigation. So we have here areas of forensic science or areas of criminalistics or areas of instrumentation. First is the art forensics. Art forensics concerns the art authentication cases to help research the work's authenticity. So, authentic ba yan? Authentic, original ba yan? O duplication lang? O replica lang? That's art forensics. So, authentic ba yung Mona Lisa na yan? Painting? Or peke? Authentic ba yung sculpture na yan? Or peke? Authentic ba yung samurai na yan? Or peke? Di ba? That's the art of, that's art forensic to determine the genuineness of a particular art. So art authentication methods are used to detect and identify forgery, faking, and copying of artworks such as paintings. We also have here computational forensic concerns the development of algorithms and software to assist forensic examinations. So computational, when you say computational, it involves mathematical equations and algorithms and software to assist forensic examination. So criminalistics is the application of various sciences to answer questions. So what is again in criminalistics? It is the application of instrumentation, di ba? So the application of various sciences or forensic sciences to answer questions relating to examination and comparison of biological evidence. That's first. Second is trace evidence. Third is impression evidence such as fingerprints, footwear impressions, footprint impressions, and tire tracks. And controlled substances. So illegal drugs, pwede yan. Chemicals, poisons, and ballistics, firearms, and tool mark examination, and other evidence in criminal investigation. So next to criminalistics is digital forensics. Digital forensics is the application of a proven scientific method and technique in order to recover data from electronic or digital media. So digital forensic specialists work in the field as well as in the lab. So they determine whether a particular CCTV footage or a particular image is genuine or edited. Diba? Isang trabaho yan ng digital forensics. Earprint analysis is used as a means of forensic identification intended as an identification tool similar to fingerprinting. An earprint is a two-dimensional reproduction of the parts of the outer ear that have touched a specific surface. So most commonly the helix, the antihelix, the tragus, and the antitragus. So when we say helix, it pertains to the yung medyo pa-rotation. Yan. Yung pag-rotate nung medyo dito sa may tenga, di ba yung direction ng rotation niya? And the anti-helix, yung pabaliktad na pag-rotate niya. And yung tragus, yung lawak nung parang lawak ng butas, parang yung lawak ng kanal niya, kumbaga. So that is your ear print analysis. Kumbaga, ang sinasabi ng ear print analysis is we can identify a particular person through the ear characteristics. Yan. So, kung ano yung direction at yung lawak ng itsura ng tenga, pwede natin malalaman, pwede natin ma-identify ang isang particular person. O pwede natin malaman yung pagkakilanlan ng person. That's if we don't know his name, we don't know his identity. So, ang meron lang tayo is yung tenga niya. Siguro yung mga nasunog na tao, yung natira na lang sa kanya, kunwari is tenga. So, yan. So, kung meron siyang nakarecord before na tenga, yung tenga ang i-compare natin. Ear print analysis. sa mga nasunog, di ba? Pagka kunwari yung mga jet crash or plane crash, pag may nag-plane crash, mostly yung mga victims doon, sunog. So how do we now identify that person? Kung nasunog na rin yung mga valid IDs niya. So hindi natin malalaman yung pangalan nila. So ang ginagawa ng mga forensic expert natin is they do DNA. So kung nakatulong ang DNA, DNA. Kung pwede naman hindi mo na idaan sa DNA kasi mas expensive ang DNA, edi try natin yung iba pang forensic methods such as anthropometry. Kung meron siyang recorded na physical measurement niya. Kung wala namang anthropometry, ang ibang ginagawa ng other states na wala pa dito sa Pilipinas is the dental records. Yung record ng ngipin niya. Diba? So, pwedeng gamitin yon sa, ito si Pedro kasi may bungal siya dito sa lahat ng ngipin niya. Diba? So, pwede rin yon. Pero hindi pa siya conclusive. Hindi pa conclusive ang dental records. Kung baga pwedeng preliminary pa lang yon. DNA talaga. DNA results talaga ang conclusive na pagka nag-match, yan na talaga yan. We are very sure that he is the person. So, fingerprint din is also conclusive. So, pagka nag-match yung fingerprint mo, yan. Pwede na yan. Siya talaga yan. Next is your forensic accounting. Is the study and interpretation of accounting evidence. So, it's all about business-related accounting purposes. Accounting of net worth, your gross worth, GDP, income, losses, forensic aerial photography. So when you say aerial, it is a photography taken from the sky. So forensic aerial photography is the study and interpretation of aerial photographic evidence. So ang ginagawa nito is sumasakay siya sa helicopter or plane tapos sa kanya pinipicturan yung top view ng topography. Yung top view ng lupain ng community. Yan. So, forensic aerial photography. Diba sa US noon, meron pagka mga wanted person, marami kayo nakikita sa Facebook. Wanted person na tumatakas on board his vehicle, tapos hinahabol ng mga police mobile, tapos nakarecord on video. So, that's an example of forensic aerial videography naman kasi video yon, hindi siya photography, video. Pero as time passes by, nag-advance ang technology. So nowadays, hindi na tao yung nagre-record ng video. Pwede nang anong tawag? Anong tawag doon sa technology na yon? Nakalimutan ko. Yun. Basta yun, yung machine na meron na siyang sariling meron na siyang sariling camera at nakakalipad na rin siya sa ere. Tapos nare-record na rin niya yung mga nangyayari. Yung napakasimpleng term lang nun, nakalimutan ko pa. So, yun. So, forensic anthropometry is the application of physical anthropology in a legal setting, usually for the recovery and identification of skeletonized human remains. So, forensic anthropology, So, anthropology measures physical measurement. So, pwedeng body measurement sa mga buhay pa. At sa mga human remains, pwedeng bone or skeletonized human remains ang mini-measure. So, pagka bones yung mini-measure, kunwari, skull, ano ang lapad, ano ang haba. So, from the measurement of the skull, pwedeng malaman kung, Asian skull to, American skull to. Hindi, black skull ng mga negro to, black Americans. Skull ng mga China to, skull ng Japanese to, di ba? So, yun, meron siyang basihan ng kanyang presumption based on the measurement of the skeleton. Next is your forensic archaeology. Is the application of a combination of archaeological technique and forensic science typically in law and law enforcement. So archaeology, study of soil, rocks, rock formations, soil formations, yan, archaeology. Forensic astronomy. So when you say astronomy, we are talking about the uh, study outside universe. Yan, mga universe. So forensic astronomy uses methods from astronomy to determine past celestial constellations for forensic purposes. So we study star formations. Yan, forensic astronomy. Forensic botany. So when we say botany, it pertains to the study of plants. So forensic botany now is the study of plant life in order to gain information regarding possible crimes. So forensic botany. Forensic chemistry is the study of the detection and identification of illicit drugs, accelerants used in arson cases, explosives, and gunshot residue. Or in short, it is the study of chemicals in relation to a criminal case. Forensic chemistry. Forensic dactyloscopy is the study of fingerprints. Forensic document examination or question document examination answer the questions about disputed document using a variety of scientific processes and methods. Many examinations involve the comparison of a question document or components of the document with a set of known standards. The most common type of examination involves handwriting, thereby the examiner tries to address concerns about potential authorship. So ito yung mga pinag-aaralan natin sa question document. So ano ba yung issue sa question document examination? So mayroong party na nagsasabi na, oh, this was written by the person. This is original. This is the original handwriting of that person. This is the original signature of that person. So, ang sabi naman ng isa, no, that's fake. So, for us to determine the truth, we will be doing question document examination. In the conduct of question document examination, we have to acquire a sample or original sample of the handwriting of that person, subject person. O kung hindi man, kung signature naman yung in issue, dapat makakuha rin tayo ng original na copy ng signature ng tao. And from that, we compare the question document to the original or the what we call exemplar signature or handwriting of that person. So, kung nag-match yung mga characteristics, then okay, it is the question document is an original. Pero kung hindi nag-match, magkaiba yung mga slopes, yung mga curves, and all other characteristics, handwriting characteristics, then it is not original. It is a fake. It is a fake document. So, pagka peke ang pirma, peke ang handwriting, peke na rin yung document. So, forensic DNA analysis takes advantage of the uniqueness of an individual's DNA to answer forensic questions such as paternity, maternity, testing, and placing a suspect at the crime scene. For example, rape investigation. Hindi lang rape investigation, pwede ring murder. Pagka meron din siyang uh, DNA na naiwan sa crime scene. So, forensic DNA analysis. It resolves questions on maternity and paternity, di ba? So, si Pedro or si Pedro, anak niya daw si Juanita. Ay, di yan totoo. Sa DNA malalaman. So, o kaya merong matagal nang nawawalang anak si Juan. Tapos merong isang tao, allegedly, nagpanggap na siya daw yung ako yung nawawalang anak mo. O, di ba? So, i-DNA. Kung siya nga talaga yung anak, malalaman kung mag-match sa DNA ng parents, ng father and ng mother. So, kung hindi nag-match, hindi, impostor ka. Lalo na yung mga, uh, ang issue kasi kung bakit tayo nagkakaroon ng paternity and maternity issues is mostly about years. Kumbaga yung mana kasi kaya may mga nagpapanggap na, oh, ito yung tagapagmana nito. It's because of the years, yung mga mamanahin kasi. So, that's on paternity and maternity testing and placing a suspect at a crime scene. So, pagka murder case naman or rape case, makakuha tayo ng DNA through the semen. Aside from semen, pagka nanlaban yung biktima, baka mayroon din siyang nakuha na scrap ng skin ng biktima. So, saan natin makikita yon? Sa fingernails ng biktima. Titingnan din natin sa fingernails ng biktima kung mayroon ba siyang scrape ng skin ng perpetrator niya. So, kaya, kung nakagat niya, ayan, so kung meron sa merong skin na nakuha from the teeth of the victim pag nanlaban yan. Kaya mga blood stain ng biktima pag nanlaban yung ay pag nanlaban yung biktima, maaari tayong makakuha rin ng blood stain ng perpetrator. So kung may knife yung biktima, tapos nasugatan niya yung perpetrator, possible na may blood, may dugo yung perpetrator na naiwan sa crime scene. So yan yung mga inaaral ng DNA. Next is your forensic engineering, is the scientific examination and analysis of structures and products relating to their failure or cause of damage. So it pertains to structures and machineries. So ano kaya yung nag-cause ng damage nitong sasakyan? Bakit kaya malfunction itong sasakyan? Bakit kaya nagiba itong building na to? Bakit kaya bumigay? So that's the product of engineering. Tapos, pagka it is related to a pending case at court, then it will now be forensic engineering. Next to forensic engineering on page 102 is your forensic entomology. So when you say entomology, it refers to the study of insects. If you are watching the crime scene investigation series, New York, United States, Mayan, they also portray entomology. So how does entomology help in criminal investigation? So studying insect, it can also help in determining the time of death of a particular person. So aside from the stiffening of the body, yan, post-mortem rigidity, post-mortem lividity, the settlement of blood, yung mga yan, aside from that, we can also use forensic entomology to determine the time of death. So, kung inuud na yung katawan, mga ilang araw na kayang patay yan, di ba? So, kung malaki na yung uod, mga ilang araw na kayang patay yan. So, kung almost skull na yung natira, tapos namamatay na yung mga uod, mga ilang araw na kayang patay yung corpse. So, that is the the contribution of your entomology. It deals with the examination of insects in or on. So when you say in, sa loob. When you say on, atap, on and in and on and around human remains to assist in determining the time or location of death. It is also possible to determine if the body was moved after death using entomology. So, pwede rin natin malaman kung nilipat ba yung katawan through entomology. So, when you say nilipat, uh, namatay siya sa isang place, pero transfer lang sa isang place. Yan, malalaman din pwede rin malaman through entomology. You have here your forensic geology. Geologist. So, it involves the study of soils, minerals, and petroleum. Soils, minerals, and petroleum. Geology. So, forensic geologists will study soils, minerals, and petroleum. Forensic geomorphology. Geomorphology is a study of ground surface to look for potential locations of buried objects. So, geomorphology. So, pagka meron tayong missing person, tapos na-confirm natin na napatay siya kasi tinawag ng kidnapper na, hindi nyo binigay yung ransom, kaya pinatay namin, nilibing na namin, hanapin nyo na lang. So, pagpapahanap sa atin, ang kailangan natin is forensic geomorphology kasi hindi natin alam kung saan natin hanapin, napakalawak ng area, kung saan kaya siya possible na nilibing. So, it is the study of ground surface. So, aralin natin yung top surface ng soil to detect possible potential location of that person or buried cadaver, living na object. Forensic geophysics. So, physics and geo combined. So, is the application of geophysical techniques such as radar for detecting objects hidden underground or underwater. So, geophysics, kung meron bang nakatago sa underground or sa underwater. O kung meron bang gumagalaw sa underwater or sa underground. O kung meron bang submachine, mabilis ba yung galaw ng submachine? Submarine. Sorry. So, submarine, meron bang submarine underwater at mabilis ba yung galaw niya? Gaano kabilis yung galaw niya? Geophysics ang kailangan natin. O kung meron bang train na gumagalaw underground, mabilis ba yung galaw niya? Gaano kabilis yung paggalaw niya? Geophysics and radar. Nadidetect ng radar. Di ba? Meron tayong mga radar. Specifically, pagka sa US radar, dinidetect niya kung merong pumapasok sa territory ng US. Pwedeng aerial, pwedeng through land, or pwedeng underground, underwater. So, dinidetect na yan ng radar. Tapos, kung unauthorized, pinapabombahan nila. Hindi nila binabombahan. Winawarningan muna nila. So, ang sinasabi ng nagmumonitor sa radar, we can see you on the radar. You are entering US territory. You are entering US territory. We are warning you to identify yourself or to turn away. Bumalik ka sa pinanggalingan mo, kundi pasasabugin ka namin or else we will be forced to eliminate you. Diba? So, ganyan. Pagka hindi bumalik, pasasabugin talaga ng US pagka unauthorized. Kasi lahat dapat ng pumapasok ng US, meron siyang prior schedule. So, naka-coordinate muna siya bago siya papasok sa territory. So, kung hindi siya naka-coordinate, tapos papasok siya, possible na terrorist yan. Kaya nila pasasabugin. You also have here the term forensic intelligence. It is the process or the process, forensic intelligence, the process starts with the collection of data and ends with the integration of results within into the analysis of crimes under investigation. So if in case a crime was committed and under investigation, we use intelligence to resolve that case, it is now your forensic intelligence. Kunwari, mayroon tayong mga terrorist bombers. Pinasabog niya yung pinakamataas na tower ni Kuya Will dito sa Pilipinas. Tapos, hindi natin alam kung sino kaya ang gumawa at kung bakit ginawa. Sino ang nagpasabog niyan? Terorista. So, anong klaseng terorista? Sinong terorista? Local terrorist ba or international terrorist? O yung mga terorista ng ibang bansa? Aling bansa? Diba? So, yan. So, aalamin through intelligence. So, kakalap ng intelligence yung ating mga intelligence officers. Kung bakit kaya? Ano ang motibo nila? At kung anong grupo ng terrorist. Diba? So, intelligence, forensic intelligence. Tapos now, kasi forensic intelligence na siya, it must be related with the court proceedings. So, dapat kakasuhan natin yan. So, yung mga ebidensya gathered through intelligence shall be used as evidence against the perpetrators. Forensic interviews are conducted using science of professionally Forensic interviews are conducted using the science of professional expertise to conduct a variety of investigative interviews with the victims, witnesses, and suspects or other sources to determine the facts regarding suspicions, allegations, or specific incidents in either public or private sector setting. So that is your forensic interview. The interview of witnesses, victims, suspects. Forensic limnology. So, limnology, forensic limnology is the analysis of evidence collected from crime scenes in or around freshwater sources, examination of biological organisms in a particular diatoms can be useful connecting suspects with victims. So this is true especially if a perpetrator dumped a cadaver or his victim into the water. So it pertains to the analysis of evidence collected from crime scenes in or around freshwater surfaces. So freshwater surfaces, examination of biological organisms, in particular diatoms, can be useful in connecting suspects with victims. So that is freshwater dapat. So freshwater siya, such as swimming pool na walang chemical, doon dinamp yung katawan o river, doon dinamp yung katawan ng biktima. So pwede tayong makakahagilap ng evidence. So, forensic linguistic. So, when we say linguistic, nakapagsalita siya ng maraming uri ng wika ng iba't ibang bansa. Linguistic. So, deals with the issues in legal system that requires linguistic expertise. So, mostly pagka nasa ibang bansa tayo, hindi tayo familiar sa batas nila, we need forensic linguistics to deal with the legal system that requires linguistic experts. So, ano bang ibig sabihin nitong batas na to? Ano bang gusto niyang sabihin? Ano ba talaga yung pinagbabawal niya? Kasi kung minsan, especially tayo, yung batas natin, Philippines, yung batas natin is nakaangkla sa Spanish laws. So, kung mayroon tayong batas na medyo doubtful yung ibig sabihin, sa, i-consult natin sa Spanish law, sa Spaniards, kung ano ba talaga yung purpose nitong batas na to. So, ano ba yung intention niya? So, yan. Forensic linguistics. So, when you say linguistic, the root word is ling language, linguistic language. So, nanggaling sa language. And when we say language, it pertains to the uh, dialect of a particular country, language of a particular country. So, such as Filipino language, Chinese language, English language, di ba? Pero pagka yung mga iba't ibang salita within Philippines, such as ano yung salita nyo sa province nyo, dialect na yon, dialect. So, what is your dialect? In Cordillera, we have Kankanaoy. Yan ang isang dialect ng Cordilleran. We have the Ibaloy. Pwede rin yan. We can also speak Ilocano. Pwede rin ang Tagalog. And pwede rin yung mga English. Actually, yung mga matatanda nga natin na nanggaling sa Mountain Province, they are more fluent in English than the younger generations na mas fluent naman sa Tagalog. Bakit? Kasi yung mga Thomasites noon, doon nagtago sa Mountain Province and doon naman natuto yung mga matatanda natin. Kaya mas fluent silang magsalita ng English compared sa mga younger generation. So mas fluent pa magsalita ng English ang matatanda sa Mountain Province. Forensic meteorology is a site-specific analysis of past weather condition for a point of loss. So, meteorology, meteor garden na palabas. Study of falling star. Meteorology, site-specific analysis of past weather condition for a point of loss. Forensic odontology. So, ito na ngayon yung study of your dental records. Study of uniqueness of dentition. Better known as a study of teeth. Forensic odontology. Forensic optometry. Optom, study of eyes. Is the study of glasses and other eyewear relating to crime scenes and criminal investigation. So when we say optometry, study of eyeglasses in relation to criminal case. Forensic pathology is the autopsy. That is a field of is a field in which the principle of medicine and pathology are applied to determine the cause of death or injury in context of a legal inquiry. So what is the job of pathology or pathologists? They conduct autopsy. Forensic podiatry. So is an application of the study of feet, footprint, or footwear and their traces to analyze scene of crime and to establish personal identity in the forensic examination. So, podiatry, study of footprints, foot traces, di ba? Podoscopy, what is podoscopy? Study of footprints, di ba? Podoscopy. What is dactyloscopy? Study of fingerprints. What is your poroscopy? Study of body pores, di ba? Poroscopy. Forensic psychiatry is a specialized branch of psychiatry as applied to and based on scientific criminology. So it studies the brain functioning psychiatry. Forensic psychology is the study of mind of an individual using forensic methods. Usually it determines the circumstances behind a criminal behavior. So it studies behavior, psychology. It studies behavior. Psychiatry is deeper. It studies the state of mind. Psychology studies the behavior before and after the crime, pwede yan, psychology. To determine whether a person is mentally incapable or not, psychology ang nag-assess. Forensic seismology is the study of techniques to distinguish the seismic signals generated by underground nuclear explosions from those generated by earthquakes. So ito yung dinidetect ng seismology. They determine whether or not a certain explosion, nuclear explosion, underground nuclear explosion, is caused by earthquake or volcanic eruption or caused by nuclear weapon. So yan ang ginagawa ng forensic seismology. It determines if a particular explosion, underground explosion, is caused by nature or rather caused by nuclear explosion. Forensic serology. So serology is the study of blood. Forensic serology now is the study of body fluids in relation to a pending criminal case for court presentation. Forensic social work. So social work, who does social work? Sino ang gumagawa ng social work? So when you say social, it pertains to community, di ba? So community work, forensic social work. So social work, ito yung most na ginagawa ng ating mga DSWD. So Department of Social Welfare and Development. Social work is the specialist study of social work theories and their application to clinical, criminal justice, or psychiatric setting. Practitioners of forensic social work connected with criminal justice system are often termed social supervisors. While the remaining use of the interchangeable titles forensic social worker, approved mental health professional, or forensic practitioner, and they conduct specialist assessment of risk, care planning, and act as an officer of the court. So, act as an officer of the court. If we have a juvenile, and sometimes this juvenile doesn't have parents, yan, the court can appoint a person to represent that child. Kasi yung child nga natin, yung juvenile, in conflict with the law, is not in the state of mind. So wala pa siyang discernment. Less than 15 years old, yan, pagka less than 15 years old, according to our law, wala pang discernment yan to determine good from evil. Kaya kung nakagawawan yan ng crime, hindi yun intentional. Hindi niya sinadya. Pwedeng kulang lang kasi siya ng comprehension of determining evil from good. So, yun yung isang ginagawa ng dinidetect ng psychologist. And now, pagka wala ng parent yung bata, yung juvenile, the court can appoint a parent for that person. So, parent patriae. So, the court can appoint the government as a parent of that person. So, mostly, ano yung na-appoint na parent ano yung ina-appoint ng court na parent nung juvenile na walang parent? Mostly coming from the DSWD. And pwedeng adoptive parent. Basta na-qualify yung parent to be an adoptive parent. Basta na-qualify, pwede. Kasi baka mamaya, inampun niya, pero iba pala yung purpose niya. Ibibenta niya pala. Kaya, human trafficking. Binibenta yung internal organs ng tao. human trafficking, di ba? So, dapat ma-qualify rin. So, forensic toxicology, study of poisons, drugs in the human body. So, toxicology, toxic, study of drugs or poisons. Forensic video analysis is a scientific examination, comparison, and evaluation of video in legal matters. So, why do we do video analysis? Because sometimes uh, people nowadays are high tech. They can fake a video. They can create a fake video. So, kunwari, may krimen na nangyari. Tapos, uy, nakuhanan yung mukha ng perpetrator. Tapos, biglang nilagay yung mukha nyo doon. O, di ba? Imbis na natutulog kayo sa bahay, biglang ginawan kayo ng CCTV footage. Mukha nyo yung nakalagay sa CCTV footage. Kayo yung gumawa ng krimen. Di ba? So, this is now the job of your forensic video analysis to determine whether or not that video recording is genuine. Kung original ba yan or edited. Kasi kung edited yan, pwede natin kasuhan yung gumawa ng video na yon. So, anong kakaso natin? Defamation kasi gumawa siya ng faking kwento eh. Ginawa kanyang perpetrator. Ginawa kanyang suspect. Imbis na hindi. Imbis na inosente ka naman talaga. And ano rin to, mas matindi pala yung cybercrime. Cybercrime ang kaso na lang natin. Mas mabigat pa lang cybercrime. Mobile device forensics. So, mobile device forensics is the scientific examination and evaluation of evidence found in mobile phones. For example, call history, deleted messages, and included SIM card forensics. Yan. So, mobile device forensics. Mostly pagka mayroong biktima, murder, namatay yung biktima, wala tayong kaalam-alam kung sino yung suspect, sino yung perpetrator, pero meron tayong na-recover na cellphone sa biktima, sa bulsa ng biktima. So, pwede nating aralin yung content ng cellphone niya to determine possible suspects. So, anong gagawin? Titingnan natin kung meron siyang nakaalitan through the cellphone. Kung meron kaya siyang nakaalitan. So, possible na pag may nakaalitan siya sa cellphone niya, sa exchange of text messages niya, sa chat, or sa call, possible na yung nakaalitan niya yun, pwedeng suspect. Yan. And trace evidence is the analysis and comparison of trace evidence including glass, paint, fibers and hair, and even semens, blood. So lahat, hindi lang limited dito sa mga nakalagay dito sa book. Whenever there's a contact, leaves a trace. So whenever there's a contact, lahat ng naiwan doon used to identify the perpetrator is your trace evidence. So ang naka-enumerate dito as trace evidence is glass. So pagka may binasag na salamin, kung ano yung source ng pagbasag ng salamin, yun ang trace. So kung bahay, hindi na to, nabasag yung salamin, so ano yung ebidensya? Yung bato. So, sino yung nagbato? Kasuhan natin ng malicious mischief, sinira mo yung bahay. Pain, yung example niya is yung VTA kanina, yung vehicular traffic accident na sinabi ko kanina. Yung puting sasakyan nakaparada, binunggo, hinitinran ng pulang sasakyan, di ba? So, may transfer siya. Fibers, pagka yung akyat bahay, pumasok sa crime scene, tapos, lumabas sa crime scene, ngayon, pinag-aapakan niya yung mga tawag dito, mat o kaya mga may ano dun, may mat sa doorway nung pinasok niyang bahay, tapos may dumikit sa sapatos niya. Ngayon, through chemical examination, i-compare yung composition ng cloth na nakuha sa sapatos niya at nung cloth na nung mat. So kung nag-match, pumasok siya sa crime scene. Suspect siya on fibers. And on hair, ito rin. So kung mayroong perpetrator pumasok sa crime scene tapos nakaiwan ng hair sa crime scene, so through DNA, malalaman natin yung DNA nung buhok. Tapos i-compare natin sa suspect. So meron ba tayong DNA na makukuha sa buhok? Meron. Dito sa may end niya, yung sa may bilong part. So pwede. Pwede kuha na ng DNA yun. Using spectrophotometry. So ito yung ginagawa natin sa ballistics naman. Yung ginagawa natin sa ballistics is pinapalaki natin yung mga striation marks, mga firing pin impression, slippage marks, skid marks, shaving marks ng bala at ng shell. Pinapalaki natin through the use of bullet comparison microscope. So pinapalaki natin yung image at the same time through juxtaposition, i-sinet aside natin side by side yung test bullet or yung crime scene bullet sa test bullet. Tapos pag nag-match, then we have a match. That bullet was fired from the suspected firearm. So ang ginagawa sa microspectrophotometry is yun. Pinapalaki natin yung image tapos piniprint natin as picture. Pwede rin sa QD, di ba? Pinapalaki rin natin yung signature, tinitingnan din natin baka computer created yung signature o hindi. Pwede rin pinapalaki yan. Tapos kung nakita nyo na meron siyang hindi soft yung edges niya, ay possible na ginawa ng computer yan. Pero kung soft yung edges niya, ay gawa ng pen talaga yan. Yan. So aside from this, trace evidence can also include blood, semen, saliva. So lahat ng nahahawakan, lahat ng nakokontak ng mouth natin, and ng private organs natin, yan, pwede yan. Trace evidence natin yan. Wildlife forensic science. So applies a range of scientific disciplines to legal cases involving non-human biological evidence. So wildlife, kaya nga wildlife eh. So we are not pertaining to humans. We are pertaining to wild animals to solve crimes such as poaching, animal abuse, and trade in endangered species. So meron tayong mga endangered species. And the government prohibits us, so we have a law, the government prohibits us to kill and hunt endangered species. Pati nga aso, di ba? Nagbabawal tayong magkatay ng aso at ibenta. Bawal din yun. Blood stain pattern analysis is the scientific examination of blood spatter patterns found at the crime scene to reconstruct the events of the crime scene. So this is true kung mayroong blood stain pattern sa crime scene. Tapos yung direction niya sloping upwards, sloping downwards, or sloping pa-left or pa-right. Through studying this blood pattern, we can determine the amount of force. Kung gaano kalakas kaya yung ginawang pagmaso, kung maso yun, or pagsaksak sa biktima. Kung gaano kalakas, and kung paano yung direction, from left to right, or from right to left, or from upward or downward yung motion na ginawa. And it helps in physical reconstruction of the crime scene. So we have, by the way, two ways of crime scene reconstruction. We have your first is your physical reconstruction and your second reconstruction. So in your physical reconstruction, ang ginagawa is inire-reenact nyo yung krimen. So dinadramatize nyo. There is physical reenactment. Pero sa mental reenactment of the crime scene naman, ini-imagine. Ini-imagine natin kung ano kayo possible na nangyari. So mental reconstruction yon. And your bloodstain pattern analysis is physical reconstruction. Dapat physical reconstruction kasi yan. Kasi i-compare nyo yung lakas na paghampas nyo to determine kung magkakaroon ba siya ng magkaparehong blood pattern. So kung nagkapareho ng blood pattern, means to say, yun na yun yung pwersa at yung direction na ginawa ng offender. So ganun kalakas yung offender. So, sino ba yung mga, sa mga suspect, sino ba yung mga ganun kalakas sumampas? So, yun, pwedeng gamitin yun in detecting the suspect. So, sa pagkaganyan, medyo maliit lang yung blood stain pattern niya, baka bata o babae yung gumawa. Pero pagka marami yung blood stain pattern niya, napakalakas nung taong gumawa niyan. Masculine. Diba? We have here on your page 104, table 2, forensic science timeline. So it is about the history development of your forensic sciences. So from year 44, the death of an emperor, Julius Caesar, is assassinated. Following this event, a physician performed an autopsy and determined that of the 23 wounds found on the body, only one was fatal. So, ang daming 23 na sinaksak kay Julius Caesar, isa lang ang fatal, isa lang tumama sa puso. So, time check, ladies and gentlemen, it's already 9:57. We had almost 2 hours discussing. So, we will be resuming our discussion next Tuesday. And since we have no time to entertain your question, if in case you have questions, you are free to ask them on the chat box or through the Google link of our Google class. Through our Google class pala, I mean. Or pwede nyo ring i-reserve next meeting before we start with our next discussion on Tuesday. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are dismissed. Thank you very much. See you next meeting.